Welcome back to Executive Production with CY. Today is Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I'm Sweets, this is CY, and this is our bi-weekly chat where we talk about in process and in general what we are both working on. Today we're going to be talking about agents and how they're changing how both of us have been building. For me as a software engineer, it's been a big identity death, an ego death of what I used to do, which is write lines of code, and now I'm building agent harnesses and trying to get agents to do more and more of what I used to define my role as, and I feel more and more like I'm in a product position. See why I feel like you're traditionally more in a product position and you've been a little bit more hands off the code, but it feels like these have been enabling you to take your product abilities way further, not having to rely on a dev, not having to contract a dev, waited for a dev, get the dev's approval, trying to translate your taste into a dev's ability to understand it, and now you can write what you were wanting to build. You were just telling me about building on a plane. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you were building and how you've been building with these agents?
Yeah, this is a really kind of a fun, magical thing that happened while I was sitting on a plane between Boston and Seattle. And Pete Rango messaged me that he just released a track on Subvert. And I hadn't used Subvert before, but I had an account. And so I was like, oh, cool. I'll go and buy this track and also try to see how Subvert feels. So I went in, went through the checkout process, and oh my God, it felt just like a different version of Bandcamp, which I found internally, this was like it was a little disappointing. Now, granted, I'll caveat this all with like, I know Subvert's like still in a beta phase. So by all means, if you're building this structure, go ahead and clone structures that people understand before you iterate on them. In any case, usually, with my background in product, I start pulling out a piece of paper and redesigning people's UI or take screenshots and start moving things around. But since I was like in a middle seat, I was like, okay, well, let me see if I can delegate this to an AI. So I pull out Claude, I send it screenshots of my checkout flow. And then I thought, the context I want to give it is not like make this easier, make this better, whatnot, but let me feed Claude Subvert's manifesto. And, like basically all the stuff that's been Subvert's written about who they are and what they stand for and what they want to do. And while I'm at it, let me give it a link to Austin Roby and everything he's written that's on the internet. And so contextualize within that frame and also the mission of like doing good by artists, redesign the UI. And I have to say what followed was really kind of amazing because rather than relying on AI as a tool, I found myself working with AI as a colleague. It was as if I was in Slack with a very competent UX designer having a dialogue where the UX designer was able to ask me clarifying questions without me saying, ask me clarifying questions. And that's a huge shift where I'm no longer working with AI as like a bunch of smart interns, but AIs as very people understand their role and what's possible and just need context. And so, in the end, I ended up with this is just a 3-screen checkout flow. It did a great job of recasting it in a way that framed, the artist's voice and Subvert's voice and encouraging the person who was purchasing the track to pay more and not just like pay more, you figure it out, but pay more. And here's a framework to think about paying, 10x, 100x what the asking price is. And so, I was very pleased with that. I was like, oh, like I want to tweet about this or send it, send it in some way where it kind of like sits out there to both as a hey Subvert, here's an idea, but also hey, this was a really interesting way to get UI designed. And I spent the latter half of the flight thinking about like, oh man, I don't want to write anything. And then finally, I was like, oh, I should just ask Claude to write a Substack post about what it just did. And so I've yet to post it yet, but coming soon, there's going to be an AI writing about how it, you know, made a change. It's like all. I feel like I'm not a product person. I'm like a director, like a media director. So I've gone up a level from thinking about product market fit to thinking about what is it that I want to share with the world as like a reflection of what's changing in the zeitgeist and what this could mean for the way ideas are fleshed out into product. And that's like, again, it's like we all go up one level of meta, which is kind of fascinating.
Now, you mentioned you had it write out a post for you. Did it have you publish that post, or did it just send you what the post would look like? And
It sent me a draft of the post, and I could at this point say, like, go and make this my first Substack post and do the work. But I haven't prompted it for that yet, and I think that's like I'm the blocker. Like I could have told it, several days ago when this happened, just do it. But there's a maybe it's a part wonderment, part sort of internal dialogue about like what does it mean to have my first post in my Substack be written by Claude. Like, is it delightfully meta, or is it kind of uh, just a sign of like of where we're going, which I'm actually super uncomfortable with.
this is the meta that it feels everybody building in an AI right now, which is taste is what's really important. Does CY write his Substack himself? Does he
Right.
allocate it to Claude? There's no cookie cutter answer. Everybody has to develop their own taste to figure it out. I very much align with you on that sentiment that I am the blocker. I feel Sid at Recoup keeps every time there's a new thing, he sends it to me. And then it used to be we had to allocate time to it. And now I find if that becomes my blocker that we can't work on it because I need to prioritize it over something else. It reminds me, well, why haven't I built the infrastructure to just delegate it to another agent? Why can't I spin up 10 agents in parallel? And my big change between last week and this week is I was before using Claude Code on my desktop. And so if I had two features going in parallel, I would tell it to start writing changes to the API, and then I would open up another Claude tab and tell it to start writing changes to the API. But because they're both navigating my local shell, my local bash, my local CLI, it would check out one branch and work on it, and then it would steal it and check out a different branch and then work on it, and then this one would finish and try to push, and it would push it to the branch that this one was working on, and they both didn't understand why there were fixes because neither of them were communicating with the other. And so then I started to realize, okay, the fact that I have to build on my local machine is a blocker. And so everybody is now building on sandboxes. It's easy to spin up a virtual machine. And so what I've just built is a implementation inside of my Slack. Vercel came out with this chat SDK, chatsdk.dev, which allows very easily to just build event-driven onto every chat app that you'd want. Slack, Microsoft Teams, Google Chat, Discord, I believe also Telegram, if I'm not mistaken. And then it just connects, which has been great because now they've got all these adapters: Slack, Microsoft Teams, Google Chat, Linear, GitHub, Discord, Telegram, Redis. And now it looks like they're working on Instagram and Messenger and X and WhatsApp so that I can build my bot and then plug it in the same way that with OpenClaw, you can plug it in anywhere. With this, you can just plug it in anywhere. And so now this is what my day's been like so far. Is I wake up, I went out to eat breakfast this morning, and I sent it a follow-up on a message that I'd sent it last night before I went to bed. I told it the task I wanted to start the next day with. And so I woke up and there was already a pull request written. And then while I was sitting down eating breakfast at a cafe, I was able to click the review button. It opened up my GitHub app. I looked over its changes. I gave it feedback right here in the Slack thread. It, in less than a second, replies to me. And then in less than 2 minutes, it had the update. So before my eggs even came out, I had given it feedback. It updated it, and I was able to review it again. So we were able to do a full iteration between the time I placed my order to get breakfast. I was able to do a full iteration, review it again. I think this was also, again, before my breakfast had come out. And so I was able to do like 2 or 3 iterations. And then here's where I actually got back to my house. So I did 2 iterations sitting there before my breakfast came out. And then breakfast comes out. I ate breakfast. I'm already thinking about it. When I got back home, I then tested it. And then I got these little buttons that merge it. And so then eventually I click the button and it merges it on its own. And then I can like spin up multiple in parallel. And so like I'll be working on one and then I'll realize I want to do this other task. And whereas before, like I was saying, if I tried to do multiple things in parallel, if they were both in the same code base, they would conflict because they were both on my own local machine. each
Yep.
time I prompt the agent, it spins up a brand new sandbox. And so it's only for this task. And so I could spin up 10 tasks in parallel. None of them are going to make this MacBook that I'm on run any slower. It's not going to deprecate my own hardware. It's not going to conflict amongst itself. It's its own virtual machine. I don't have to worry about it running commands and exposing my private wallet key where I keep all my money and all my crypto stuff. It runs on a virtual machine. I don't trust that virtual machine. It's untrusted. And so today I've already gotten out 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, and I'm on, no, 5. I've gotten out 5 pull requests so far, and I'm on number 6. And my big goal is like 7 to 10 pull requests is normal for me in a day. So we haven't even hit my normal limit. I still feel like I'm the blocker, and I'm trying to figure out how do I get exponential. It feels like the CEO of Shopify just started vibe coding again. And you see like there's a am I exponential graph. You see like it's flat, and then this year it's shot up in an exponential. And I ran myself in it, and it's like pretty linear still, even today. And so I'm trying to figure out how do I get myself out of the way so that it can keep writing code and it can keep going exponential. I'm starting to think like, should I write this into the Telegram, into our feedback chat for in process, so that when CY says there's an error in Telegram, Jad's already really fast, but an agent could be even faster. Of CY sends it, CY sent it with an image. It immediately goes, spins up a pull request, replies in the thread with a pull request. Because in process is open source, CY can read that. CY can, if I'm still not online, you can send me a message and say, hey, there's a pull request up. I already reviewed it. It looks good. And then like we can keep cutting me and the devs out of the loop and make it more and more faster iterations as soon as a new request comes in. And one other thing I wanted to show is just how devs are using it. Well, not devs, but musicians. Here, Nadia Sito is the guy that ran Faria Nounish. And he has never built anything. For Faria Nounish last year, he had Gabriel Lago, who was supposed to be coming on today to build the mini app. And now he's trying to put in a proposal for Nouns for his next art residency. And this is the first thing he's ever vibe coded. He's using Claude Code. He doesn't even know how to host. So Claude hosted this on GitHack. And now he's asking me, how do I host it so that I can do my own domain? And I told him, just put in a prompt to host it on Vercel. But he's got like all of his GIFs in here. He's got all the noun stuff, everything on Hover, all the props that he's done with nouns, the props that he's doing, Noun O'Clock, all of his Noun O'Clock designs, everything that he designs in the nouns community. And in my opinion, this is a great site. Like this does not feel like a WordPress site. This very much feels custom in how he's done everything.
It's a timeline. Yeah.
And then at the link, he's got a call to action to the prop that he's actively working on, so that as nouners like me see it, I can go in and I can review his proposal and I can vote on his proposal. And I agree, it's a very interesting time. And my main question is, like you said, I'm the blocker. How do I get myself out of the way so that we can get exponential? There's the blocker. Go ahead.
I have a one-word answer to that, and it comes down to, I think, trust and building that trust. It's like when you work with a new team. When you start off, you're double-checking everyone's work. You're trying to make sure everyone's actually aligned. And the thing about working with Claude is there's this aspect of this is too good to be true. For me, this is how I parse it as. So I really still need to review everything and make sure, we talk about taste, but I think of it as voice. Like, is this really my voice? It's like if for all the people in high offices who have speechwriters, it's still on them. Yes, the speechwriter follows them around and sort of gets their vibe and understands what their ethos is, and then writes what they, as a speechwriter, thinks that person should say. And that person looks at that speechwriter as like, this is an ally. This is my colleague who sort of like helps me boil down things in the most succinct way for me to project this out to my audience. And so, if I look at Substack in a similar way, if I've basically tasked this Claude entity that I barely know to write a Substack post for me, like, I think at some point I will trust it, because you get me, and I just have to skim this and put it out, and it is literally going to be me, because I trust that you know me well enough to represent me. And so it is like for this specific example, for every link in the chain of trust, if you have that, like, you get me and I get you, and we've collaborated before, and I have evidence that we create high quality work together when we just exchange a few words, then yeah, I think then it gets exponential. But I don't have that. Like I literally just met this guy and had him redesign some UI, and now I'm asking him to write some stuff for me. And I'm like, I got to sit with that. And so it is, I am the blocker, but I have my standards of trust. And it's on me to build that trust and ask the AIs to do the things that help me understand, yes, we are aligned, and you get me deeply enough that I can delegate communication to you, or whatever those things are that I want to delegate. um, and so for some people, that they may be very free with that. They're just like YOLO. Like I don't care. I don't care how I present myself. But maybe this is a function of, like, the older you get, the more you do care that you're being accurately represented. Or if you've been bitten once before, then you're skittish and you have to build that. It's this human, but I think a valuable concept of, like, having the level of trust you want with something, and then being able to build that trust with every link along the chain, so that you then feel all these people are on my side and working for me, is critical to then moving fast. Because you can be brave, you can have courage if you have trust.
Right. Thank you all for tuning in. We will see you in 2 weeks.